I'm going to show you how to break down a whole chicken. This is one of the best ways I know of to save money, eat healthy, and quickly put up a bunch of ready-to-cook chicken in the freezer in single servings that you can use anytime you want. Plus you get about 3 liters of broth, all for the price of 1 chicken. I admit, this is not as fast as buying a package of thighs and a package of breasts and a few boxes of broth, but the money you save is so worth it. Plus, it's probably faster than you think. So let's get started. When I'm looking for how-to videos, it's so annoying when they don't get right to the point, but I need to talk a little bit about food safety. More than 1 in 25 chickens sold in our grocery stores is tainted with salmonella, and it's totally legal. So you have to be really careful with cross-contamination. We'll go deeper into that after we finish, but for now, just remember to always wash your hands anytime you touch raw chicken. Don't touch anything else without washing your hands. Anything that touches the raw chicken should be thought of as contaminated and must be washed before it touches anything else. Now, if you want to refer to this video later and you just want to get straight to the how-to, you can use the chapters down by the timeline to find the one called Let's Get Started. Okay, back to the show, Mo. The first thing you need is the pot from your pressure cooker, or if you don't have one, your slow cooker, or if you don't have one, just a big pot will suffice. We're going to do our work right here in this pot. It's going to save you a lot of trouble. This is where all the scraps are going to go as we work so we can turn them into broth. Next, make sure you have another container ready to go so you can put your giblets in it. I have one started already that I just keep in the freezer until I have enough giblets to make something with it. Also grab a few empty containers. I want one for today's dinner, one for the white meat, one for the dark meat, and one for the small bits. Open these and set them on the counter with the lids off and sitting next to them so they're ready to go really quickly. You may or may not need the kitchen towel, but I'm going to give one away just in case, so stay tuned to learn how.
Never rinse or wash a chicken, but you do need to unwrap it. And that's best done in the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it, straight in the sink. Make sure you have a towel handy, better still if it has an Eat Is Love logo. Make sure you have a container ready and open, just waiting for you. And make sure you got your knife handy, turn on the sink while your hands are still clean. Now put a little cut in that wrapper and take the wrapper all the way off the chicken. Don't cut off your finger, whatever you do. But if you do, it's not my fault. It's your fault, because you're in charge. It's your kitchen. All right, let's get that wrapper all the way off, because, partially wrapped chicken is just, well, it's stupid. Make sure to rinse the wrapper off, because we don't want that stinking up the trash can. Now, reach inside the cavity of the bird. You're going to find another plastic bag that has the giblets and neck. This is no time to be shy. Just get right in there. The biggest piece is the neck. Pull that out and just put it in the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it with the bird. Now, since you have a container ready, grab the rest of your giblets, even the little ones, and put those right in the container that you have handy. And set those giblets aside. Now let's rinse off this bag too, because again, we don't want to stink up the garbage. And now the bird and the neck are in the carafe, again using my elbow to turn off the sink. Go back to the counter. So now I've got my chicken ready for me, waiting on the counter. We can close the giblet container because we're done with that for now. And notice how I've got a nice variety of snap tops just waiting for me. I'm going to thank myself for that. All right, move the chicken over to expose the cutting surface and move this beautiful, soon-to-be delicious bird right onto the cutting surface. Flip it over on its back, and the first incision we're going to make is this little piece of skin. By cutting that, it allows us to pull this leg and thigh together away from the body of the bird. Do this on both sides. Now the next step is to get through the joint that holds the thigh to the body. This isn't as hard as it sounds. Now once you get some experience, you'll learn how to do this without even having to cut through the bone. You're looking for a fat line. It's a little white line. Did you see that? I didn't do a great job of filming it, but if you cut along those white lines whenever you see it, you won't have to go through the bone. Okay, so I'm just without using too much force, very gently and successfully removing this piece from the bird. Now you'll notice the thigh and the drumstick are still connected. And we're going to take that connected thigh and drumstick and put that into a snap top. Now go to the other side, repeat the process. Expose the joint and look for the fat line. But you know what, suppose you can't find the fat line, or suppose you don't get it perfect. Well, you know what, it's no big deal. I mean, just roughly find it, and you can just push that knife through. You can even give it a little whack with your left hand if you want to. It's not a huge deal. Just get the thing off of there and put it in the thing with its friend. And now we're going to do kind of a similar maneuver with the wings. We're going to pop the joint. Don't be shy, by the way. Don't be squeamish. Just grab that thing and dislocate the joint. See if you can find the fat line or a good, easy place to cut that through and get that wing separated. Put it in the same container with the drumsticks. We'll deal with that later. Okay, pop the joint, look for the fat line, try to do it elegantly, and if you can't do it elegantly, brute force is always an option. In this case, I think I got it right. Okay, so now we've got the main body of the chicken, which is going to be so much easier to deal with. Let's pull the skin off. I sometimes like to play a little game with myself. I like to see if I can get the whole skin off in one piece. I don't know. You don't have to. The important thing is just that you get the skin off the bird at this point. And I am taking way too much time with this, and I apologize that you have to watch this, but still, you might as well see how it goes when the whole skin comes off in one piece. It's like taking off a pair of socks after you've been doing something sweaty in them. Yeah, and this is no time to be squeamish. Just pull that thing right off. And take that skin and put it in the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it. Stand the bird up on end. And we're going to cut straight through, separating the back from the breasts. We're going to go right through those tiny little rib bones. They're no match for your knife, trust me. And pull that back off the chicken by any means necessary. I've done this a lot of times. It never goes exactly the same any two times. There's our nice back. Throw that in the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it. I've still got a little bit left there I'm going to cut off. No two chickens are exactly the same because they're not manufactured. They're grown. So you'll have to improvise. But what I'm trying to do here is to get all the back off so that I can lie the part that I'm going to be working on flat on the cutting board. So yeah, I'm just feeling my way through it as usual. But at this point, I've got it where I can work with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be workable. So there, I can lie it flat on the cutting board, and I've got access to the breast meat. Now, I like to start with a horizontal cut there. Cut it horizontally, and then come down from the top, and then where those two incisions meet will give me a beautiful piece of breast that I can put in a snap top. There are actually two cuts in here. That was the breast, and the second piece is the loin. They're both beautiful cuts of white meat. Now, some people like to just skip that horizontal cut and just start at the top or sometimes from the bottom and just go along the rib cage and cut as cleanly and as nicely as they can. You'll notice here that there is a loin and a breast. Nice and clean. And put that in the snap top with the other breast. Now, I'm going to just kind of, I guess you could almost say scavenge. I'm just going to go through and get all the other little pieces of meat that I can off of this. And I don't have to be perfect. Nothing's going to go to waste because anything I don't cut off of this bird is going to end up in the stock. But still, I like chicken meat, so I'm going to get as much of this as I can, within reason. Now that I have taken what I reasonably can off, I'm going to put the carcass into the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it, with the neck and the back and the skin. And I'm going to move on to the dark meat, that is to say the thigh and the drumstick. This is a process similar to what we did when we took the legs and the wings off of the bird. We're going to break open the joint and look for a fat line so we can separate the thigh from the drumstick. And if we can't do it elegantly, well, we'll do it with brute force. Now we have a thigh and a drumstick. I'm going to set the drumstick aside and leave the thigh here, and I'm going to grab the other leg and repeat the process. Start by breaking open the joint, look for the fat line, and if you can, elegantly and cleanly cut through the joint, which I am able to do this time, and now I have a thigh and a drumstick. And I'm going to tidy up this little straggler here because it bothers me. But I'll put that in the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it, and we can get started on the thighs. Now, this is a personal preference thing. I like to take the skin off of the thighs, and again, I like to try and do it in one piece. And by the way, just my rule of thumb, I leave the skins on the wings and drumsticks. I take the skins off the thighs and the breasts. So now I've got skinless thighs, but I want them to be skinless and boneless. And how do you make something boneless? Well, you remove the bone. So I could use my chef's knife for this. It would work okay, but actually a boning knife makes this next step just a little easier. But even with the boning knife, I have to tell you, I've watched a lot of high-end chefs doing this, trying to find the right way to do it. But the fact of the matter is, you just have to get in there and feel your way through it. You're going to slice and scrape, a lot of scraping, and just whatever you have to do to get the bone out of the thigh so that you can have a boneless thigh, which in my opinion is really just the tastiest part of the whole chicken. And it should probably go without saying, but of course the bones go in the crock or the carafe or whatever you call it. They're going to be part of our stock. And when we're done with that, go wash the hands.
Okay, thanks to Video Magic, all the chicken has been put away and been replaced by a couple of liters, or quarts for you Americans. Oh wait, I'm American, whatever. Anyway, a couple of liter quarts of water. These are gonna go into the carafe or the crock or whatever you wanna call it. Like that. And it's actually 3 liters, but I only have 2 of these fancy things. But thanks to Video Magic, I now have my 3rd quart. Put that in there, along with just a splash of vinegar. Some people say it's optional. Some people say it gets more of the nutritional goodness out of the bones. I haven't done any scientific studies myself. Okay, now we're going to take the crock or the carafe or whatever you call it and put it in the instant cooker. Put on the lid, make sure it's nice and tight, and we're going to set that pressure cook high for 2 hours. Let it go. And now you can relax, clean up, do whatever else you need to. Now that we're done, I want to touch back about that squeamish thing again. Don't. Just a generation before mine, everybody knew how to do this. It's the most natural thing in the world. What is unnatural, perverse even, is getting a fast food thing neatly packaged in a box that has no resemblance to the animal it came from. If you don't eat animal flesh, that's cool. I totally respect that. But if you eat animals and are grossed out by the process, then your paradigm is out of adjustment. If you're willing to put something in your mouth but you're afraid to touch it with your hands, you need to get real with yourself. Now, a last word about safety. Salmonella is rampant in this country. American poultry operations and the USDA don't think it's their job to fix it. The way they put it is that they assume that you are smart enough to cook your chicken to 165 degrees. Now, please tell me that you are smart enough to cook your chicken with a thermometer. Also, always make sure that you're thinking about cross-contamination. Anything I touched while I was breaking down that chicken was contaminated. Anything that touched my knife or my cutting board or the insides of my containers or pot was contaminated. If I wiped my hands on the kitchen towel, it would be contaminated, as would be anything that it touched. You gotta take this stuff seriously. Now, before we wrap, I have to mention that the absolute fastest, easiest thing we could have done was to simply put this whole bird in the oven at 350 degrees and cooked it to 165, and we would have had a roast chicken pretty much on par with the ones they sell at the grocery store. In fact, next week, I'm going to post a video on how to roast a chicken. But for now, we are done. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and I almost forgot to give something away. We're going to give away this towel. The first person to prove how smart they are by typing in 165 in the comments will get a clean, uncontaminated kitchen towel. Thanks again for watching. Chicken is real. See you next time. Ciao.